Okay, hi guys, welcome back. We are working on our next tutorial, which is tutorial 6.9, and we're going to be looking at something called functions. Okay, this is an important concept that occurs in computer science and basically all programming languages. So we're going to be learning about how those are used, what they are, and how we can make our code a little more simplified by using something called functions. Okay, we'll also be looking at improved flowcharts. We've been working on flowcharts, and this is going to be just another step along in that process. And we'll be looking again at lists. Now we've learned lists previously. We looked at lists when we did the rooster tutorial. Okay, and we used it here when we used the dinosaur or the pterodactyl tutorial. You had a list that was the choices. So you chose 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, and that list got saved as a sequence that you could then call back by clicking on pterodactyl. We'll be looking back at that functionality again for this tutorial. Okay, so let's take a look at what we're doing today. I'm going to be doing a few things. I'll show you the joke, or sort of the tutorial, which is a bunch of jokes. It's built in Scratch, of course, and it uses some of the learnings we already have, and we'll be building on that. I'll be looking at some increased functionality with flowcharts. We'll be looking at another flowchart diagram that I've created, and we'll be talking about how we can sort of progress what we're doing there. And then I've got two versions of our Scratch project, one with and one without functions, okay? And we'll take a look at those and compare them. Okay, first of all, let's take a look at this joke program and see what it does. So we have an octopus, and it's going to have many of the things that you're going to be expecting, things like costume changes, and there are going to be word bubbles, and there's going to be a couple of delays and if statements and that sort of thing. Let's take a look at what happens. So first, we click on our dinosaur. What do you call three octopuses with eye patches and a peg leg? It goes to a little waiting screen. Octopirates, octopirates. And then we get a little drum costume and a couple of sound effects. Okay, click them again. We get a new variable and a new joke. If 1 is octopus and 2 is octopuses, how many is 3.14? And the answer is octopi. Excellent. So let's take a look at how that's, or first of all, what that's doing. Now I mentioned that we are going to be looking at flow charts. And if you take a look, you don't have to do this now because we'll be getting into this when we get into game design. But if you want to find out where I'm talking about this, it's under the game design section. We'll be looking at some of the different shapes and symbols used in flowcharts. Okay, there's a number of them. We'll be looking at them later, but I'm starting to introduce you to those here so you can start to recognize what some of them are. These are given, these are kind of given shapes that are used kind of universally in flowcharting. Okay, so for example, start always is a circle. Okay, and then there are a bunch of different things you'll see. There's a delay. A delay is like almost like a letter D. So here we have a delay where we're waiting for an input. Okay, and that is that shape. So you'll start to see some of those up here. Okay, I've again broken this into two parts. We've got a front end, which is what you see, and then we've got logic, which is sort of your back end. This is the functionality that's happening behind the scenes for things to work. Okay, the front end, we see a costume, we see a say, which is kind of like a word bubble. Okay, we have another costume change, another output or a word bubble. Finally, a third costume change, and then we have some sound effects. Okay, the drum and the cymbal crash and the crowd laugh. Okay, behind the scenes, what's happening is we have a random number being set, and we are applying that to a variable, which will be called joke number. And then we have an if statement that says if joke number is 1, do something, then wait, and then do something else. If it's 2, do something, wait, and then do something else. All the way through 3, 4, 5, 6, down to 7, wait, and then do something else. Now the thing that we're asking here is if joke number is 1, tell joke number 1. If joke number is 2, tell joke number 2, and so on. The answer to the joke is associated with the same if statement. So if the joke is number 1, tell joke 1 and tell answer 1, right? So we don't need a new if statement. That just kind of goes through the same logic there. Okay, so this is really simplified. I've really simplified it down. There are some elements that you could probably add to this in terms of the build, but these are the kind of the essential pieces of what's happening. You'll also notice, or you may not, but I'll just show you, that I've started to use the same colors that you'll see in Scratch. So if we go to Scratch here and we look at the colors, we've got, sounds and events and controls and operators and variables. These colors that we have here for each of our code blocks, I've tried, they're not exactly the same colors because they're not available, but I've tried to make things similar. So where we've got an if statement, which is orange, or a variable being set that is orange, or an operator, which is green, I've tried to make those colors in line with what you'll find here to make it easier to find kind of the link between each thing. Okay? All right. So what's happening is this. You may want to pause the video just to take a quick look at this and take this in. But these are the elements of our game, okay? Which is this guy here, or our joke telling. All right, so how do we do this? Well, let's start off by breaking this down. We're going to build the first sort of part of one of the sequences, okay? So let's take a look at this. In the background, we need to have a random number chosen, and we need to apply that to a variable. So let's do that. Okay, so we're going to go to our choose a random number. We need that thing. Okay, pick a random number. We're going to have a total of 7 jokes. So we're going to have 1 to 7. For the purpose of this initial set of blocks, I'm going to make it 1 to 1 only because I wanted to pick joke number 1, and we'll look at why in a minute. Okay. Okay, so we're going to have that. We also want to apply this now. I've already built my variables. I've got joke number, and I've also built 2 lists, answers and jokes. And we'll look at why I built these later. But for now, we need a joke number. Okay, so we're going to be using that variable. Okay, so when this phrase is clicked, let's set a variable. So I'm going to say set joke number to a random number between 1 and what eventually will be 7, but for now is going to be 1. Okay, and then I want to tell my sprite, my octopus, to tell a joke. So I'm going to say, and my joke is going to be, why did the octopus cross the road? And we're going to make that maybe 3 seconds. And then we're going to change his costume because he's going to, let's go to costumes here. We're going to switch to costume. Let's take a quick look at the costumes that we have available for this guy. Okay, we've got just a default octopus. We've got another kind of default octopus, not doing too much different. We've got an octopus drinking tea, which I'm going to use as my kind of waiting costume. We've got another one of a pirate, and we've got another one of a drum set. Okay, and so let me set that back to the original. All right, and so what I'm going to be doing here is I'm going to switch to the octopus with T, which is he's going to say, why did the octopus cross the road? And then he's going to switch over and do this little waiting thing, okay? So we then have to tell him to wait. So we need to wait for a little while. Now, when we're waiting, we want to have some indication to the user or the person watching this thing that something is happening. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and use think. Now I want to do this. I want to have it go dot, 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 right? Like the kind of when you're typing something on your phone or whatever message application, it does this to tell you that something's happening. So we're going to do that. And the way to make that happen is I need to do the first one, and then I need to wait a second. I'll wait maybe 0.2 seconds, I'm not sure. And then I'm going to duplicate both of these and duplicate them again. Okay, and I'm going to have this go 1 dot, and then 2 dots, and then 3 dots. Okay, so if I click this, it should do that here, dot, dot, dot. Now I want that to repeat because I don't want it to happen once, I want it to happen, say, 3 times. So we're going to go repeat 3 times, and I'm going to take this and drop it in here. So now when I click this, it should go dot, 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 dot. Okay, and you can change that if you want to 0.5 or 0.1 if you want it faster. Whatever you decide you need that to be, that's how that would be. And then it goes dot, 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 and that looks pretty good like that. Okay, that's enough time to wait. Okay, so we had this change to our octopus, which is the T waiting, and then he does his little dot, 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 thinking, thinking, thinking. Okay, so that seems to work pretty well. We'll put that there. At the end of our waiting, we want to then tell the answer. So we're going to switch back to our costume which is just our regular, this guy, okay, our regular octopus, and he's going to say the answer. So we're going to say, oops. Okay, why did the octopus cross the road? To get to the other tide. Nice, I just made that up right now. So now I have a new joke to add to my list. Okay, so why did the octopus cross the road? To get to the other tide for 2 seconds. And that will be the end of our if statement. Oh, we haven't put it in the if statement. We need to do that. We need to say, because we're going to have 7 of these, right, at some point. So we need an if statement. So let's go to our control and say if, put that there, joke number is equal to 1, because we're going to have 7 of these going. If the joke is 1, tell this joke. If the joke is 2, tell a different joke. If the joke is 3, tell a third joke, etc., etc. So we need to go here, get an operator, and we're going to say if our joke number is equal to 1, then do these things, do these instructions. All right, now, if I click this, this should all work. It should tell our joke. It should do the repeating, waiting part, and then all the changes should happen. So let's click on this and see what happens. Why did the octopus cross the road? Change costume, ... 3 times. Say the answer, and change the costume. Awesome. Now, oh, okay. Now, that's actually using some other code, which I'll talk about in a minute. Okay, so this is when the sprite is clicked. Let me separate that. Oops. Okay, let me do that without clicking on this guy. Click here. Sets our joke number 1 to 1. Why did the octopus cross the road? Does its weight. Switches the costume back to octopus, and then gives the answer, and then that's it. Okay, and then after that, we want that cymbal crash, the drum, and the crowd laugh. So let's add that in, and there are a couple of things we need to do in terms of weighting there. So let's first change our costume, change costume to drum, and we're going to play a sound. And the sound, I've already added them to my sounds here. I've got a flam snare and a splash cymbal and a crowd laugh, which I just got from clicking here. So we're going to add those into our code by saying play sound, flam snare, and then I'm going to do a little bit of a wait, which is easy. Where's my wait? Here, I'm going to wait half a second, 0.5, and then I'm going to go back up to here. I'm going to just duplicate this, duplicate, and I'm going to duplicate it again. Okay, so what do I want to happen? I want it to play the drum, then I want it to play the cymbal, and then I want it to play the crowd laughing, and in between that, it changes to the drum, it does all this, and then before this, we can add in go back to the original costume, which is our costume octopus. Okay, so let's just test that. Change it. Good. All right, let's put that here so that it's with the entire code block, and let's test the whole thing. So set your joke number randomly between 1 and 1. If joke number is 1, then say this. Switch costumes, do your repeated 3-second wait, switch back to Walk Octopus, give you the answer, and then do the whole drum thing. Okay, octopus drum, snare, wait, cymbal, wait, change costumes, and crowd laugh. So let's run that one time, see if it looks good. Why did the octopus cross the road? Waiting to get to the other tide. Beautiful. Okay, so that's all we need if this was one joke. This does all we need to do for one joke. Unfortunately, we have 7 jokes that we need to figure out. And so what you're going to see in the next video, I only have 30 seconds left, but this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be adding this, we're repeating this piece of code here with, with 7 other jokes. Okay, so let's come back to that in a couple of seconds. I'm going to pause this video and you'll jump over to the next video.